Okay, I guess around schools and places, that's where the area where perhaps speed bumps are more effective, possibly, than speed cameras?
Yes, I think they're still necessary because obviously there's children about schools, and we don't want people zooming through those areas and, potentially causing accidents, because that would be tragic.
Joyce said it's good to have somebody so young getting into politics, but she says that were you successful, what difference could one candidate make in Parliament against the other bigger parties?
Well, of course, there's always the vote. I mean, it might just be one vote, but every vote counts. And it's about awareness. From Parliament, I can promote the Libertarian agenda so much more effectively than simply from, where we are at the moment, which is on the internet and in the media occasionally. So,
OK, let's talk about the main policies here. For healthcare to begin with, is it a case of putting more money into the NHS? What do the Libertarians think on this?
It's not a case of putting more money into the NHS. It's a case of making sure the money that comes from the National Insurance pot goes directly to the frontline services, not into the general pot, then the Department of Health, then the quangos and the bureaucracy and the managers, but straight into the frontline services, the doctors and the nurses and the surgeries and that sort of thing. Because the amount of waste in the NHS is monumental, and we can't tolerate people's money being wasted because it is their money, it's not the government's.
Some people have private health care. Would you have people that had private health care not eligible for NHS? Or would you keep they seem to have the best of both worlds, so people that have the NHS?
Well, we would encourage where the private sector can do a better and, well, more importantly better, but also a cheaper job, we'd encourage it to get involved. But we're obviously not going to just say, no one's having public health care. That would be irresponsible, and it's not going to happen.
What about education, something close to your heart?
Of course.
Of course. Scrapping the SATs is something that they've done in recent weeks. So they're talking about scrapping the SATs. Is that something that you're in favour of?
Well, we need to end, because, I mean, I've obviously experienced it relatively recently, and you're taught towards exams, and that's not the best form of education. You want an all-round education, you want an all-round knowledge of the subject, and teaching to exams doesn't really achieve much. I mean, exam grades are going up, but everyone's still saying, all the reports coming that our quality of education is going down, and that obviously points to quite a severe problem within the system. And sorry,
I was going to say, just on the A-level results, they go up every year, the quality and the pass rates, yet every year people spew out this statistic that the pass rate is only high because the exams are easier. Someone that's taken the exams recently, it's a bit of a slap in the face for you, isn't it?
Well, I think to say the exams are easy is, well, I would invite anyone who says that to come and take the A-level exams, because I assure you they're not easy at all. I think there could be scope for improvement in some of the GCSE ones, because I've experienced them in the last couple of years, and some of the questions there, I thought, well, that's a bit of a given, and it's not the most complicated thing. But A-level exams, I can assure you all, are not easy at all.
There's something else as well that's in your manifesto, is having the parents free to decide which school their children go to. Wasn't there a case recently when a parent, I think, was arrested for deception because they pretended they had a different address to get their child into a different school? So under you, that would end?
That would end, yes. We say to the parents that where your child goes to school is your choice. And we, rather than giving the money directly to schools, we'll give a voucher for however much is spent per year per child to the parent and say you can spend it wherever you like. It could be that a state school, a private school, a faith school, anything you like. You can say, OK, here's a voucher, can my child go to this school? And they'll assumably say yes.
Going from one extreme to the other here, Sally has got in touch. Thanks for your message, Sally. She says a number of British soldiers have been killed in Afghanistan in the past week. Would you, if you had the choice, withdraw our troops from abroad?
We don't support an interventionist foreign policy. We say, as a country, our first priority is our own citizens. And while we'll do our best to promote, end poverty and that sort of thing abroad, we don't want our military involved.
Is there a case, though, for having terrorists who perhaps hide out in these countries, and by being out there, this is the reason apparently they are out there, is to stop some of the Al-Qaeda pods from developing bombs and ideas and being wiped out before they can get over to us? Well,
I don't think it's an effective strategy. Terrorists, obviously, they don't fight like a conventional army. You can't try and fight a conventional war against them. It simply will not work. And I think Iraq and Afghanistan have taught us those lessons. And in future, we need to be far more careful with where we deploy our troops.
Have you any policy on immigration?
Immigration is it's kind of a tricky issue for libertarians because at the base of it, we would say government has no right to tell you where you can and cannot live. But practically, we recognise that we couldn't simply open borders because with our current system, that would be chaotic. So we favour a points-based system at the moment.
Right. So people would perhaps be able to have a job over here, or would they have to have a relative that's been living here for so long? How would the points basis work?
It would be, if you're going to be useful to society, doctors, I don't know, trained workers, and they'd be given priority over unskilled workers, so we can make sure we get the ones that are going to be helpful to us. And unfortunately, we'd have to say, no, I'm sorry, but we can't take you at this point to those who aren't.
OK, let's move on to taxes. Again, the Libertarians would put an end to government waste and abolish income tax. So how would the money come into the country if there was no income tax?
Well, there's obviously other taxes that create receipts for the government. There's VAT and there's, all the other taxes that the government takes. And we would... it's spending cuts and cutting out the waste. That will give us the money to say, no, we can give you the choice again with where your money is spent and say, income tax, we're not doing it anymore.
Lee says, you sound smart. She's nice. And he's
pleasant.
He asks how close you've come to winning an election or a by-election elsewhere. I mean, how many by-elections have you actually fought so far?
This is the party's first by-election.
The very first one?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We had a few council candidates in the local council elections, but this is our first outing into a by-election.
How did you get on with the council elections?
I think we got nearly 7%, I think, which was a respectable showing for our first ever election.
It must be tricky for you, because obviously you're in it to win it, as it were, and you're hoping to win, but realistically, with the history of political parties in the UK, it's maybe unlikely this time around, at least. So what would be like a moral victory for you? What kind of voting percentage are you hoping for?
Well, we'd like to repeat our performance that we did in the local elections. We just that people are considering us and voting for us in relatively large numbers would be fantastic. As you say, winning at this point is unlikely, but it doesn't stop here for us. If we don't win now, we will keep going until, we want to free a Britain, and we're not going to stop until we have that.
So what's your timetable now, between now and the 23rd of July? Does it get busier and busier as you go down the line?
It seems to be, yes. You've got the basic door knocking. I've got to deliver more leaflets. I've got to be talking to people on the streets. I've got a few more radio interviews and that sort of thing. So I'm going to be fairly busy until next Thursday. Will
it be a bit of a relief once it comes round to that?
Well, it's stressful but enjoyable at times, so I'm okay with it.
Being 18, I mean, how supportive are your family? You got your mum still living locally?
She's been fantastic. She supports me completely, as have the party and my friends and everyone who knows me, so that's been fantastic.
Is she surprised how ambitious you are?
I don't think it was a surprise for her. I think she's always known I was ambitious, but that's an aside.
I can imagine, if you aren't elected this time around, you go down to the university. Which university will you go to?
Essex or Hull, depending on how good my grades are come August. So.
Okay, and what will you study?
Politics, philosophy and economics as combined.
And I imagine you'd be the chief of the debating team.
Perhaps, yes. I took part in my college's debating team very often, so I suppose I'll continue that at university as well.
OK, Thomas, just before I let you go, I'll just give you a time to just tell people why they should vote for you.
Well, we are the only party at the moment that really has the solutions to our debt issues, to our civil liberty. We want to say to you, look, enough is enough. We want your freedoms back, and the only way you're going to get those back is to vote Libertarian.
And if you did get in, what would be the first thing that you'd change?
The first thing that we would change, income tax would be the most pressing of our major policies that we'd focus on first.
Nice to see you. Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
There's Thomas Burridge there from the Libertarian Party. There are 12 candidates in all. They've all been invited.